I know you're used to seeing me a bit hyperbolic, a bit excited, and you're wondering, why do I sound so mellow? Because I'm not, that's why, damn it. The New York Knicks, have you seen them? Have you seen them? Have you been seeing them ball? We can talk about LeBron. We can talk about the Super Bowl. We can talk about a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. But New York, stand up, yo. New York, stand up. I've been waiting for this moment, and here it is. I only got one thing to say before today's show starts. Start spreading the news. Let's roll. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Coming at you at the very least 3 times a week over the digital airwaves of YouTube. I'm finally back right here in my new studios. By the way, appreciate the love and support you all been throwing my way. We continue to climb every single day. We've now exceeded over 536,000 subscribers in the first 10 months, over 85,000 in the last 3 weeks, over 13 million views this month, having eclipsed over 85 million views over the first 10 months. Can't thank y'all enough for the support. I appreciate it. I'm thankful for it. I'm humbled by it. And by the way, if you want to continue to support the show right here on YouTube, just click the bell to get notified for all of our new content. And by the way, while I'm in such a good mood, I hope you don't mind me asking, but I do have a New York Times best-selling book, you know. It's a memoir. Straight Shooter, a memoir of second chances and first takes. It's now in paperback. Just go to straightshooterbook.com to pick it up, and I will deeply, deeply appreciate it. Now, that is not what's on my mind right now. It's not even the callers that I'm going to hear from later at 888-SAS-5303. That's 888-727-5303. It ain't even that. It ain't even that, because the first order of business is the latest on my New York Knicks. Did you see it? Did you see it? I know you saw it if you watch basketball, because you should be seeing it. They won again last night, beating the Indiana Pacers 109-105 at Madison Square Garden for their 9th straight win in a row, and obviously moved into 3rd place in the Eastern Conference, threatening for that number 2 overall seed in the Eastern Conference. They did it without Julius Randle. They did it without OG Anunoby. They did it without Mitchell Robinson. And obviously, it was largely due in part to first-time All-Star himself, Jalen Brunson, who played lights out, dropping 40 in the win. Last 9 games, y'all, have y'all been paying attention? 32.6 points, 63.3 assists, 4.1 rebounds. The brother needs some serious MVP love, which the crowd at Madison Square Garden gave him after the win, bringing Brunson to tears. Hold on. It's beautiful. I'm 56 years old. I've been alive since 1967. The New York Knicks haven't won a title since 1973. Damn it, I'm biased. I've been waiting for this. And I'm watching this brother bust their living, you know what, no matter who he goes up against. And I'm just looking at him right now. This is a guy with the Dallas Mavericks last year, ladies and gentlemen, okay? I'm sorry, not last year, the season before when he was a Dallas Maverick, okay? In 4 seasons there, averaging just a little under 25 minutes a game, shoot 49% from the field, okay? I'm looking at it just 11.9 points per game. But with the New York Knicks in his 2nd season, look at this, 35.3 minutes, 25.3 points, same 49% shooting from the field, 42% shooting from three-point range, 6.3 assists, okay? This is what he's done. This year's stats at 27 a game, on 48% shooting, on 43% shooting from three-point range, 6.4 assists, and he's the only player in the NBA this season averaging 27 and 6 and shooting 40% or better from three-point range. New York Knicks got a chance. Orange and blue skies, baby. Orange and blue skies. This is what I've been talking about right here. This is what I've been waiting for, all right? This is what it is. If you look at the New York Knicks right now, y'all think I'm crazy, but I ain't crazy. I'm giving you the truth. Pay attention. New York Knicks got a chance. New York Knicks got a chance. You see them Boston Celtics jacking up nearly 44 threes a game? I don't like what I'm seeing. You see Milwaukee and the way they play defense? I don't like what I'm seeing. You see Miami not being able to get their stuff together? Distractions in South Beach potentially affecting their play? Definitely possible. Okay, I'm looking at all of that. All of that. Leaving Cleveland. Why should I be worried about Cleveland? Donovan Mitchell's a stud. He's that dude. But why should I be worried about Cleveland? I am very, very, very excited. Very excited. And the Jalen Brunson, my apologies, my brother. Because even though I picked Halliburton to be a starter, I could have picked you as well, but I was thinking point guard, shooting guard, which is why I picked Donovan Mitchell. But you, the way you look and the way you play, I'm so proud and happy that you are an all-star because you deserve it. The New York Knicks, ladies and gentlemen, are going to the conference finals. I believe it. I'm claiming it. I'm stating it for the obvious. But I'm not going to stop there because I got some more stuff to give you as I get into other NBA action that took place last night. The Los Angeles Lakers defeated the number one team in the East, the Boston Celtics, by a score of 114-105. Boston's 37-12 on the year. The win brought the Lakers back to 500 and ninth place in the Western Conference. They also won without their two best players in LeBron James and Anthony Davis, who were both out with injuries, but were led by Austin Rivers, 32 points in his career high, 7 3-pointers. It's really, really nice to see Austin Rivers show up and do what he's capable of doing, what he hadn't done pretty much all season long. LeBron James and Anthony Davis being out and what have you, we get all of that, okay? And I said Austin Reeves, my problem. I didn't mean Austin Rivers, I meant Austin Reeves. Let me say this to you. The Lakers right now are 25-25. They're on pace for another play-in tournament seat. They went to the Western Conference Finals last year. I don't know if the road to the Western Conference Finals is going to be so easy this year. Minnesota is here. They've got size. They've got defensive prowess. They've got a superstar in the making in Anthony Edwards. They got consistency at the point guard spot and Mike Conley Jr. I'm looking at Oklahoma City. They got a bunch of young thoroughbreds on there, and a league MVP candidate is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who can flat out ball. I'm looking at the Denver Nuggets as the reigning defending NBA champions. And by the way, Jamal Murray ain't really even get it going yet, even though he's averaging 21 a game. And some would say should have been an all-star, but we'll get into all of that a little bit later. And then you're talking about the Los Angeles Clippers, who have been on a tear, who've got a two-time Super Bowl champion and two-time NBA Finals MVP in Kawhi Leonard. They got a star in Paul George. They got a former league scoring champion multiple times over in James Harden. They got the Energizer Bunny that is Russell Westbrook coming off the bench. They got exceptional coaching by Ty Lue. They got guys like Terrence Mann and Norman Powell to rely upon. The Clippers are no joke either. I don't believe the Lakers get that far this year. I don't believe they get that far this year, which is why right here on this show, although I did it on my daytime job, I'm going to do it here again. The Los Angeles Lakers, and specifically LeBron James himself, because ain't nothing going to happen without his approval. And the Lakers would never trade LeBron James unless he asked for and insisted upon being traded. So let's get that out the way right now. But LeBron James, if there's one place he'd go other than Tinseltown, it is Gotham City, New York City. And if there's one place he should consider going to, it is New York City. The way the Knicks are looking right now, since the OG Anunoby trade, the New York Knicks went from 20th to number 1 defensively. Defensive efficiency, number 1 in defense against field goal percentage shooting and three-point percentage shooting. You go with that. But let me say this. What else are the Knicks missing? If you get a guy like LeBron James, 39 years of age in his 21st season, still averaging 25, 7, and 7, still an all-star caliber superstar in this league, if that brother comes to New York, to Gotham City, to the Mecca that is Madison Square Garden, do you have any idea what that will do for the New York Knicks franchise? I'm here to tell you right now, LeBron James, you want another chip? You want another championship? You want to eclipse Steph Curry? You want to catch Kobe Bryant? You want to have a chance to catch Michael Jordan? Go to the Knicks. If you're the New York Knicks, you have to do everything you can to make this happen. If you're the Los Angeles Lakers, you have to consider it. You saw that hourglass tweet that LeBron James put out over a week ago. You know why he put that out there? Because he knows time's running out. Father Time is undefeated. Now, Rich Paul, his agent, says, quote, LeBron won't be traded and we aren't asking to be. That is absolutely positively true. Nobody is trying to imply that otherwise has transpired. What I'm saying is it should. You're the New York Knicks. You have 11 picks over the next 7 years. You got 4 first-round picks in the 2024 upcoming draft. You got 2 first-round picks in next year, 2025 NBA draft, okay? You literally have 8 tradable, movable first-round picks at your disposal and 11 first-round picks overall over the next 7 years. If you Leon Rose, the president of basketball operations for the New York Knicks, what the hell are you doing? Taking the picks, putting it in your pocket, and going to a party with them? What the hell is that? You need to utilize these picks. You need to get them. And if you are the New York Knicks, that's exactly what the hell you should do. You should go and offer no more than 5, but offer 4 to 5 draft picks for LeBron James, along with Evan Fournier's expiring contract at over $19 million, along with Grimes as a shooting guard. 5 picks, the Los Angeles Lakers got about 1 more pick until the year 2030. They are desperate for assets from the draft spot. Desperate for it. So you go there and LeBron wants to go to New York. You know you ain't winning. You know you ain't good enough to win no championship. But LeBron got a chance, and a chance to do it in New York City. LeBron James, ask out of the Los Angeles Lakers. If not this season, this summer, and come to New York City. And New York Knicks, let me tell you how desperate I am. If that means you got to draft Bronny James, go ahead and draft him. We'll work with him. We'll work with him. We'll be patient. LeBron will be patient with it. LeBron want to play with his son. Grab him. Grab him. Get him. Absolutely true. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. Make it happen. Make it happen. Speaking of LeBron James, LeBron James put out some tweet earlier today because he was basically maligning folks who were saying something about it. I could barely read that tweet right now, but he was basically saying something along the lines of how the media got it all wrong. Because if you remember, just a couple of days ago, I was going off about the players, not all, not most, but some, who were taking time off and had abused the privilege. This is what LeBron James said with his tweet. Where are all the media outlets, TV media personalities, hot takes that talk so much, whatever, about Joel Embiid, about missing those games when he knew what he was dealing with? Now he's out with an injury because of it. Not one person has went back on TV or their dumbass podcast and apologized to that man. No accountability. Couple of things. Number one, we saw the shop. Nobody called that a dumbass show. Why don't you watch your mouth? Number two, because it isn't a dumbass show, we're going to give you respect for it, even when we disagree with you, LeBron. Number two, LeBron James, why are you lying? Who talked about Joel Embiid and questioned his injury? Joel Embiid gets drafted number 3 overall years ago and missed the first 2 seasons of his career because of an injury. He's been injured multiple times throughout his career. He's had questionable knees his entire career. What the hell are you talking about? We all know that he has an injury history. He's injury prone. He's the reigning NBA MVP. He got hurt Wednesday night and had been diagnosed with a meniscus injury to his left knee. It was no surprise to anybody what Joel Embiid had been going through. There were people that were saying, damn, you never play in Denver. But somehow, some way you were on the court against Golden State when Kuminga fell on your left knee. What they were making the argument about is that if you could have played in Golden State against the Warriors, then you could have played a couple of games earlier against the reigning defending NBA champion Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic, since you hadn't played in Denver, which you visit once a year since 2019. So they haven't gotten an opportunity to see Joel Embiid play in person. Nobody was questioning the legitimacy of the injury he suffered. What they were saying is he hadn't suffered that injury until he got fell on by Kuminga during the Warriors game. But prior to that, he was working out pregame in Denver and then was pulled off the court. So tell your facts, new media. Tell your facts. Tell the whole story. And last but not least, it doesn't escape the reality of what we're all saying. We're not talking about people who are injured. We're not talking about people who incur serious injuries and we see it before our very eyes. What we're talking about are people, not necessarily you, LeBron James, but that looked a hell of a lot like you last night in Boston, where you getting ready to play in New York, but somehow, some way, 48 hours earlier, you couldn't play in Boston. That's what we're talking about. Now, again, it doesn't apply to you because you're not that dude. That's not something you do. You play when you can play. Nobody will question or impugn your integrity in that regard. But the reality is, far too many players in the NBA over the years have used days off strictly as rest days. Well, what the hell did you have 4, 5, and 6 months off in the off season for? You know why? Because while LeBron stays ready, most people are spending their off season lollygagging around and not putting in the work. And they start getting ready when training camp opens. And as a result, going up against somebody as great as you, LeBron, they ain't ready. Not health-wise and certainly not conditioning-wise. Are you going to tell that story? Of course you're not. Because that's not what new media does. New media's definition is basically to say, bump old media. We gonna do this shit our way. And by that, we'll say what we wanna say. We'll spin what we wanna spin. And we'll create our own narratives and feign that it's accurate as opposed to it being one-sided. That's right, that's exactly what the hell I said. And I meant it. Now let me get back to my next guest, who I've been waiting to talk to for quite some time. My man from NBA radio, my man who used to cover the Knicks for 16 years, the one and only Frank Isola. But I do have to give him the proper introduction. What better way to get into my New York Knicks than talking to the man that covered them for about 16 years? One could easily argue has suffered as much as I have suffered watching these New York Knicks for years. He's the host of his show on NBA radio every weekday morning with Brian Scalabrine. Obviously, he's an astute, elite NBA reporter spanning decades. Works for the New York Daily News for 16 years covering the New York Knicks. The one and only Frank Isola. By the way, let me not leave out his contributions to shows like Pardon the Interruption and various ESPN shows all the time. What's going on, Frank? How are you, my man?
Stevie Franchise, what's up? How you doing?
It's good to see you, man. Now, I heard you getting on me a little bit this morning. We'll get into that a little bit later, But I got to admit to you, I'm getting excited. I try to temper my excitement, but that damn Jalen Brunson is doing his thing. He's an MVP candidate. Nobody can doubt that. The New York Knicks on a 9-game winning streak. Tom Thibodeau is looking exceptional. How are you feeling about these New York Knicks that you're seeing right now?
You know, it's funny. If you go back to that team where Carmelo finished second in the MVP voting, that was when LeBron was in Miami, and the Knicks had beaten them at least 2 or 3 times that year. And I thought, this team's got a chance, but that was an older team. This is different. This is a much younger team with a young point guard. And you pointed out today on First Take all the assets that they have. So this is something that could be sustained for a while. But I think a lot of it begins with the point guard and the head coach. They're lock and step together. And it still blows me away that this guy was a second-round pick. I mean, all he's done his entire life is win. And everybody, all these, athletic, this and that. We'll look at the intangible. He wins. He's a leader. He makes those around him better. And, Steve, you know this. He's not going to be the MVP, or at least right at this moment, I don't think so. Right. He's going to get MVP votes this year, yes. The way that he's playing and the way that team is winning.
How surprised are you, though, Frank, that he's looking the way that he's looking? We all saw that Jalen Brunson could play. We saw him in the playoffs, particularly when Luka had gotten injured, and then he came back, but he was carrying the Dallas Mavericks when he was a member of that team, really, really doing big things in the postseason. We still didn't see this. A brother averaging over 28 a game since OG Anunoby arrived in New York City, that's leading the New York Knicks on a tear, got them as a top 4 seed within the Eastern Conference. We didn't see this. What about you?
Yeah, I think you and I both thought he'd be good, probably not this good. It says a lot about a guy that puts a lot into his craft, number one. He's very coachable. He doesn't make excuses. He goes out there and he plays hurt. And then if you look at how he played in the playoffs last year, first round wasn't great. Second round was really good against Miami. He gave them a lot of trouble. Go back and listen to Eric Spoelstra's comments after that second round series. Eric Spoelstra, all he did was rave about Jalen Brunson. But I think, he understands the NBA life because his dad played. Then he was around the Chicago Bulls as a little kid, showing up at their training facility. So he's always kind of had the NBA mindset. Steph Curry's had it. Obviously, Klay Thompson has had it. A lot of sons of NBA players have had it before. But I think his drive to want to be good, to want to be great, has a lot to do with it. So against Indiana the other night, late in the game, he gets slapped in the face. How the referees missed that call, I have no idea. What does he do? He doesn't go to the locker room to get checked out. He's obviously upset on the bench during the timeout. He comes right out and he scores and he gets fouled and he leads them to victory. That's the kind of guy he is. He brings that kind of toughness that you need. There's no drama around Jalen Brunson. There's never any nonsense. It's just about playing basketball and winning. He's a no-nonsense guy, which is one of the reasons he resonates with the fans, much like Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Charles Oakley, Anthony Mason. You know, the last time the Knicks really had a legitimate chance to win a championship was with those guys, and they were no-nonsense players, and I think Jalen Brunson's got a lot of that in him.
Over the last few games, in the midst of this winning streak, the New York Knicks are winning games without the injured Julius Randle, who hurt his shoulder, separated his shoulder. Mitchell Robinson has been out for months or what have you. Those two guys come back. I still view the New York Knicks as being a player away from a championship. I believe they're good enough right now, assuming those guys come back healthy, to get to the conference finals. But winning an actual championship, I think that's a bit far-fetched. Is there a player out there that you believe the New York Knicks should get that'll take them over the hump?
Well, first of all, just from a backup, they definitely I would go get a backup point guard. But in terms of a big-time player, they definitely have interest in Mikal Bridges. Do I think the Brooklyn Nets are going to trade Mikal Bridges to the New York Knicks? I don't. I know what you've said on First Take, and I think you're 100% right about LeBron James. All this stuff about could he be traded? Maybe. LeBron always gets very passive-aggressive at this time of year. He sent out the emoji with the hourglass the other day after the loss. Did not play last night. I have a funny feeling he probably will play Saturday night at Madison Square Garden. But he makes so much sense, and I thought this for years. What could LeBron do to add to his legacy? I always thought two places: winning in Chicago, because that's where Michael won, or winning in New York. Because let's face it, Steve, he's seen as a mercenary. That's always going to be part of, his resume, but that's fine. That's part of Kevin Durant's resume. There are great, you look at the great Cristiano Ronaldo in soccer. He's played for some of the biggest clubs in the world. Not everybody has to stay with one team. So I think if LeBron kind of embraces that, can you imagine if on LeBron's resume it says one in Cleveland, brought a championship to that city, one in L.A., but then one in New York, a place where they haven't won since 1973.
Without question.
I think there are two teams, the Knicks, and then also I think the Philadelphia 76ers would be in play, because I think if you won in those two markets, obviously I think in New York, no offense to the people in Philly because it's been a longer drought, I think it'd be a bigger thing. But those two teams in the East, for me, make a lot of sense.
I don't think he would go to Philadelphia. I think there's only one place that LeBron James would leave Tinseltown for, and that's Gotham City, New York City. That's just my personal opinion. I'm looking at the New York Knicks, and I'm saying you got 11 first-round picks over the next 7 years. You got Evan Fournier's contract that you could get rid of that's going to save you about $19 million. You got a guy like Grimes that you could get rid of as well, even though he could play. He's not a scrub. But most importantly, they've got that draft equity, those draft assets, which the Los Angeles Lakers are in desperate need of. If you're the Los Angeles Lakers, again, I'm talking to a guy that's been covering the NBA for over a quarter century. If you are the Los Angeles Lakers, do you consider making that kind of move, knowing the draft equity you could get in return for the services of a LeBron James who's 39 years of age in his 21st season in the NBA?
All right. Yeah, and you know this better than anybody. Used to be bi-coastal, but really now you're living full-time in L.A. Who are we kidding? We know that the Lakers are all about stars, but look at it this way from their standpoint. They accomplished their goal with LeBron James. They got another title out of him, and he is toward the tail end. And look at the standings. I get it right now. They're 500, but you know what happens if you finish in that 8, 9, and 10, 7, 8, 9, 10 group. It's difficult. You're playing games, then you're getting a higher seeded team. Eventually you caught up to them against the Denver Nuggets. It makes sense for LeBron. I think it makes sense for the Lakers. Why not get all these draft picks? Because you know what's going to happen with the Lakers? They'll use some of those draft picks they get to make a trade for a disgruntled player. It's always LA. It's always going to be the Lakers. Players want to go and play there. I think if they look at it from that standpoint and come to an understanding with LeBron at this stage, at this point, the best thing for both of us would be a trade, and that's why I feel the New York Knicks go in there and swoop in. But if I'm Rob Pelinka, Jeannie Buss, whoever else is in the front office there in L.A., I think it makes sense from their standpoint.
Now, let me jump on you for a second here before I move on from this. You were talking on your NBA show this morning with Brian Scalabrine. By the way, I mess with y'all. Y'all are my boys. Y'all do a fantastic job. Really, really proud of the job that you're doing. You know I love y'all. But you were sitting up there talking about how Stephen A. said this about Tom Thibodeau. Now, let me state for the record what I said about Tom Thibodeau coming into this season. First of all, I know he's a great coach. He's a brilliant defensive mind. You are a guy that go way, way, way back with Tom Thibodeau from his days as an assistant coach in New York under Jeff Van Gundy, for crying out loud. And if I remember correctly, Pat Riley, but I'm not sure about that. Here's my question to you. Tom Thibodeau, I don't know of any coach who prioritizes the regular season more than he. He gets guys to play very, very hard, go all out, but in the same breath, I think he has the potential to exhaust players. Chicago, when he was the head coach, Minnesota when he was the head coach and in complete control. Obviously, that was something that was a stain on his record in the eyes of a lot of people, which you know better than most. I'm looking at him in New York. That was my concern, which is why I said a guy like Eric Spoelstra, and specifically Ty Lue, are coaches that I thought were a touch better than him, even though I know he's a great coach. However, they go get OG Anunoby. The defensive rating went from 20th to number 1 in the league in field goal percentage defense, in three-point percentage defense. But what's the problem with them? They're seen as a team not using their bench. And if you're playing your starters that many minutes, even though Jalen Brunson's only averaging about 35, it's going to come back to cost you. How am I possibly wrong in saying that, Frank Isola?
All right, a couple of things. Number one, when I do the radio show, there are two people that will text me during the show, and I get a pit in my stomach. One is Stephen A. Smith. The other one is my wife. And it's usually because Brian starts talking about Jennifer Lopez or Ali Love or something like that. And I got my wife on my case. Stephen A.'s texting me in the morning. I'm like, oh, boy, this is the last thing I need. All right, a couple of things about Tom. Number one, everyone talks about defense. They're top 6 offense and defense. That's the first thing. Last night, all he does is use his bench because it's a lot of the starters are out. Mitchell Robinson is out. Julius Randle is out. OG Anunoby is out as well. I would only say this about prioritizing the regular season. I think the teams that win all do that. The Celtics did it last year. They ended up having 2 Game 7s at home against Philadelphia, which worked out. Game 7 against Miami didn't. The Denver Nuggets, let's be fair, they prioritized the regular season last year. Yep. They finished in number 1 in the West for the first time in history, and they ended up they were the higher seed in every playoff series they played, and they swept right through the competition. The only team that didn't take it seriously, and I still think it's going to be an aberration, is Miami, because they nearly got bounced out of the play-in tournament when they were down in the fourth quarter against Chicago after losing the 7-8 game to Atlanta. So I think Tom does use his bench. But remember now, Steve, all we heard from the fans for a year, OG Anunoby's got to play. Cam Reddish has got to play. Emmanuel Quickly's got to play. Those guys are now gone. They're not exactly tearing it up for the teams that they're on, and the Knicks are actually doing better without those guys. Okay. So I think Tom does a good job knowing the players that fit with him. I think Jalen Brunson 1,000% does. I think Dante DiVincenzo does. Certainly OG Anunoby does, among a bunch of players, including Josh Hart and Isaiah Hartenstein.
I think he's absolutely phenomenal as a coach. I still think that Eric Spoelstra and Ty Lue are a touch better, but we will see, and we will revisit that discussion.
Both had LeBron.
That's fair.
Get Tom LeBron. We'll see if he wins with him like they did.
That's fair, but Eric Spoelstra didn't have LeBron when he got them to the finals last year. Stop that nonsense, okay? Last couple of questions before I let you get on out of here, because I know that you got to go. Having said all of that, what do you see, or who do you see in the Eastern Conference Finals? If you had to pick today, who are your 2 teams battling in the conference finals for a trip to the NBA Finals?
I think it's going to be Boston, either against the Knicks or Milwaukee. I think the Knicks finishing second would be really big. Obviously, the news with Embiid, it really hurts Philadelphia. Right. But Milwaukee, which has struggled, they've actually done really well against the Knicks, and obviously Doc Rivers, now as the coach, that could change things come playoff time. I think it's going to be Boston against either the Knicks or Milwaukee. I give the Knicks a really good chance because right now they're just playing at a different level. And to your point, I think if they can make one move, maybe it'll be a minor move, or could it be a home run move? I think that could change things in the East.
Who are your 2 teams out west that's going to be in the conference finals?
I got to go with you on this one with Ty Lue and the Clippers. I love the way that they're playing. I still think it's going to be the Denver Nuggets. Minnesota's great. I love what they've done. Oklahoma City. But come playoff time, you got them winning 2 playoff series, 3 playoff series to get to a finals. I just don't see it yet. I still think the cream will rise to the top. And the one thing, this, Steve, about Kawhi Leonard, we talk MVP from the first game of the season all throughout. Nobody really mentions Kawhi Leonard's name. Kawhi's played a ton of games. Yeah. And Kawhi Leonard, when he's on the court, it happened twice. It happened with LeBron in the finals. It happened with Kevin Durant. Now, Kevin Durant got hurt, but Steph Curry was in there. He ends up being the best player on the court.
Oh, come on, man. You all know what the issue is with Kawhi Leonard. We all expect him to get hurt. That's why we don't mention him much. We know the brother's a superstar. We just don't expect him to be healthy come postseason time. Before I let you go, very last question. Did you see what LeBron did? Did you see what LeBron did today? He throws out a tweet And basically, I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have it in front of me, where he's talking about all of these folks in the media and all of these folks with their podcasts talking shit about Joel Embiid and how he needed to be on the court. What do y'all have to say now? Where are y'all now? He's paraphrasing. In other words, how dare all of us ask a question about Joel Embiid not playing against Denver, even though he's using that as an example when, in fact, that's not what we were talking about. What we were talking about were guys abusing the privilege of having lucrative contracts, guaranteed salaries for years in place, and choosing to take off at their own volition and discretion. That's what we were saying. We weren't talking about guys who were legitimately injured. So I think LeBron is full of it with that, but no surprise there. What were your thoughts about that?
Well, and let's remember something else. He got hurt in a game that he played. He got hurt when Jonathan Kuminga dove for a loose ball. And go look at the replay of that. You could see something happened to Joel Embiid's leg.
Right.
So I think LeBron is messing with the facts a little bit here. And guess what? Joel Embiid has missed a lot of time over his career. He came into the league, he missed the first 2 years.
First 2 years?
Here's what drives me nuts about the Joel Embiid crowd. And I voted for him for MVP.
Okay.
We all know that he's great. He just hasn't done it long enough because he's hurt a lot. And let's face it, whether it's LeBron, Dirk Nowitzki, Steph Curry, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and last year Nikola Jokic, about all these MVPs, we always say, you got to do it in the playoffs. He's never won 8 playoff games. Mm-hmm. So I'm not even holding the standard of you have to win a championship. Can you just get out of the second round? That's what we all want to see from Joel Embiid.
Frank Isola, appreciate the great job. Appreciate you taking the time out to join me on my show, my podcast, Stephen A. Smith Show. Really appreciate it. Look forward to listening to you and Scalabrine talk in the future. And you know I'll catch you down the line. Thank you so much, my man. You take it easy.
All right, Steve. Keep up the good work.
The one and only Frank Isola right here with the Stephen A. Smith Show. Back with more in a minute. It's that time of year again. The Super Bowl has arrived, and PrizePicks has got you covered. That's right. With the big game finally here, PrizePicks is going to help you cash in. PrizePicks is a daily fantasy app where you can select 2 or more of your favorite players and then pick more or less on their projected stats. Best part is, PrizePicks has something for every sports fan, from the NBA and NFL to League of Legends and everything in between. You can pick LeBron, Mahomes, Caitlin Clark, Connor McDavid, and Messi, of course, all in the same entry. I make my picks and submit early, all in less than 60 seconds. And get this, PrizePicks will match your first deposit of up to $100. That's right. Go to PrizePicks.com and use code SAS, that's my initials, of course, for a first deposit match of up to $100. That's code SAS when you go to PrizePicks.com. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airways of YouTube. Thanks again to my colleague, my buddy, the one and only Frank Isola, who covered the New York Knicks for 16 years in New York City for the New York Daily News and now has a hit show on NBA radio every weekday morning from 7 to 10 a.m. with my man Brian Scalabrine as well. Appreciate him coming on to the show. Let me transition to the subject of all-stars that are going to be showing up in Indianapolis, Indiana, All-Star Weekend. A couple of days ago, I gave you my All-Star starting lineups for the East and the West. Now I want to share with you who I feel should be the reserves. Now, if you look at the starters right here, just look on this list right here, okay? In the East, we got Tyrese Halliburton, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Joel Embiid. Those are starters, okay? My starters. We're looking at the Western Conference. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Nikola Jokic. Now, before I go any further, I put Anthony Davis in the starting lineup instead of LeBron James because LeBron James has leaned on him heavily this year. He's averaged 25 and 12 and better than 50% shooting this year. And LeBron says we go as he goes. So because he's tried to step back a touch and lean on Anthony Davis a little bit more, and Anthony Davis has answered the call and has barely missed any games, I thought it was right for LeBron to be an all-star, but in the same breath, somebody in my position to label him a reserve and give the nod to Anthony Davis. That's all. But here's the actual reserves that exist on these all-star teams. Let's stay out west for a second. Steph Curry, no problem there. Anthony Davis, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns, and Anthony Edwards. Now I'm going to say this to you. I think there only should have been one Minnesota Timberwolf. I know that Karl Anthony Towns is averaging better than 23 and 9. I know that Minnesota's the number 1 seed. But I got to give love to the Sacramento Kings, and specifically this kid, De'Aaron Fox. He's averaging 27 a game. They're a top 5 seed within the Western Conference. And I'm looking at De'Aaron Fox, 27.2 points, 5.5 assists, 4.1 rebounds, over 40 appearances. We also saw what he did in the first round of playoffs last year. This is a star in the making right here. And he's been injured some games this year, but at the end of the day, he's had over 40 appearances. And to me, De'Aaron Fox should be an all-star, even if it is at the expense of a Karl Anthony Towns. We know defense is leading Minnesota and the greatness of Anthony Edwards. That's what we know. I'm not saying that Karl Anthony Towns isn't having a good season, but for me, it's about Anthony Edwards and that defense. That's where I look at. I'm sorry. I got to put De'Aaron Fox on this squad. Let me transition to the Eastern Conference, please, because I think this is important. We've got reserves here. Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Paolo Banchero, can't ignore that. Donovan Mitchell, worthy. Jaylen Brown, worthy. Julius Randle, worthy. Bam Adebayo, the undersized Bam Adebayo, with his defensive prowess, I think he's proven that he's worthy as well. Here's my thing. When I'm looking at this list and I'm thinking about some of the guys on there, of course, Julius Randle will be taken off. He's injured, so we understand that. So he's not going to play. I think automatically Scotty Barnes for the Toronto Raptors should be inserted in there. I've thought about Kristaps Porzingis. I thought about Derek White for Boston. I thought about Pascal Siakam. But I'm going to go with Scotty Barnes. That's how I feel. Because I think his numbers are there. Even though his team doesn't have the greatest record in the world, there's some changes going on in Toronto. But this brother's got a lot of promise, a lot of potential. Why did I not pick Trae Young for the Atlanta Hawks, who's averaging 27 points and 10 assists? Because the Hawks stink this year. They're 7 games under 500. And they play absolutely positively no defense, and nobody plays worse defense than Trae Young. That's why. That's just where I'm at with it, okay? So, to me, the biggest snub was Scotty Barnes, who could have easily been a reserve in the East, and out West is De'Aaron Fox for the Sacramento Kings, all right? Let me transition to a different subject before I go to break here, because podcaster and commentator Joe Rogan just signed a new deal with Spotify that is estimated to be worth as much as $250 million over its multi-year deal. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say something to y'all, and I want y'all to listen to me, and I want you to listen to me good. Competition makes the world go round. But so does someone who sets a high standard. Joe Rogan has about damn near 20 million subscribers. Joe Rogan deserves every penny of that deal. And Joe Rogan, before anybody hates, and I'm not saying there's a whole bunch of haters out there because there's no reason to, but you never know. Joe Rogan deserves our respect, and from somebody in my position, appreciation for showing us the way. You see, a lot of times when people look at somebody like a Pat McAfee, for example, over there at ESPN, and they say, well, you know, who the hell is he, and what did he do to deserve what he's gotten? Well, how about starting your own podcast years ago? Betting on yourself and building your own platform and generating over 2.4 million subscribers. Oh, who the hell is Shannon Sharpe? And I mean, he's on First Take now, but damn, he got let go at FS1. Shannon Sharpe has over 2.6 million subscribers. And that Cat Williams interview, no matter what you think about it, broke the internet. It was a YouTube record. Top 2 anyway, with over 50 million views. When you bet on yourself and you come out shining, that's not to be hated upon. It's to be revered, if not respected at the very least. I got a great, great day job. What the hell you think I'm doing this for? It ain't just because of independence. It ain't just because I want to run my own shop. It ain't just because I wanted to venture out into this world and extend myself beyond the corridors and the restrictive lines of linear television. It's to also win so I can profit like that. That's business. It's the American way. Bet on yourself. Take a chance. Embrace the risk. Adapt, adjust, succeed, conquer, and then flourish. Somebody had to show the way. Nobody has done it better than Joe Rogan. Calls fights for the UFC, goes on comedy tours doing stand-up, does that every day for a living. Thank you, Joe Rogan, for reminding us all what it takes to be great at this platform. You can sit up there and say whatever the hell you want. He has done it. And I would say to Spotify, you're lucky. He actually deserved more. You got him for a good price. He actually deserved more. Here's hoping one day you can say the same about me, along with a bevy of others. More to Stephen A. Smith Show. Your calls, your text messages, your videos, and then some coming up next. Stick around, don't touch that dial. You're listening and watching the Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airwaves of YouTube. Okay, everybody, you know what time it is. It's time for Stephen A's Weekly Picks. That's right. I've teamed up with PrizePicks to bring you my favorite sports picks each and every single week. You see, PrizePicks is a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game where you select 2 or more players and predict if they will have more or less than their projected in-game stats. But the part that I really love, you can play across any sport you watch: football, basketball, soccer, even MMA. And if you go to prizepicks.com right now and use promo code SAS, you will receive a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. You heard me. Right now, go to prizepicks.com, type in my initials, SAS, for a first-time deposit, match up to $100. Next week, we'll cover my Super Bowl picks, but today, I'm making selections from tonight's NBA games. Here are my picks. Follow me over here. Bojan Bogdanovic for the Detroit Pistons, 18.5 points. I'm going with less. They're the Pistons. I understand he could put up buckets. I don't know how much I can trust him to continue to do that. I got reservations about him, okay? He might score 15 to 16 points. If he's going to score more than 18.5 on a night like tonight with the Clippers and the way they've been rolling, I'm going to go with less. Next up right here, give it to me, please. We're talking about the one and only James Harden, who's been playing lights out and got the Clippers on a roll, okay? Challenging for supremacy within the Western Conference. More or less than 19.5 points. I say more. It's James Harden. He's going to have the ball in his hands against one of the weaker teams in the National Basketball Association. Just because he's going to score more than 19.5 points don't mean Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, or anybody else ain't going to get theirs. I'm going with the more for James Harden. Let's transition to the next one. Please give it to me. We're talking about Kawhi Leonard. 26.5 points. More or less. More. Look at what I said about James Harden and who he's going up against. If I said that about him, why the hell wouldn't I be able to say it about Kawhi Leonard? Now with my last pick, Cade Cunningham, former number 1 overall pick for the Detroit Pistons. More or less than 19.5 points. I'm going to say more. Because even though they're the Detroit Pistons, even though they're an exercise of futility in this day and age right now, shocked at what I've been seeing from them all season long, that brother can score. He's going to be a primary scoring option. I didn't say he was going to be efficient. What I said is that in the end, he's going to score more than 19.5 points. That's what I'm going with. So with Cade Cunningham, it's more. With James Harden, it's more. With Kawhi Leonard, it's more. With Bojan Bogdanovic, it's less. Those are my prize picks for this week. Stephen A. and PrizePicks. Don't that sound special? Hope y'all enjoyed those first 2 segments of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Let's get to the third. And that is my tweets, my calls, my videos. Because I like to communicate with the fans. Why? Because I'm a man of the people. That's why. By the way, in case you never heard me say this before, my name is Stephen A. Smith. And I approve that message. Let's go over to the tweets right here, okay? At Hipzidnolic, HIBSIDNOLIC. Sopranos or The Wire, nothing extravagant, just simple, one or the other. Sopranos. First of all, the intro music is the greatest of all time. Doom, da doom, 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 da doom, da doom, doom. Woke up this morning. Yes, Sopranos. Intro music is all of that in a bag of chips. That's number 1. Number 2, The Wire. phenomenal show, no doubt about it. Here's my issue. I'm a black man, and I've seen that story many, many, many times over. I understand how it's depicted in terms of the actors, the settings, and things of that nature. We get all of that. And The Wire obviously was absolutely phenomenal, but I'm used to it because I've seen it all the time throughout my life. I didn't know that about some of the Italians with the Sopranos and stuff like that. I want to see that. I want to see something new. That's all it is. I'm not saying that The Wire was worse than the Sopranos or anything like that. I'm simply saying that with the Sopranos, I was seeing something new about a different culture, even though most Italians found it offensive to some degree anyway. Like my man Sal Palantonio over at ESPN. Don't get me started with the stuff that he was writing to decry with how the Sopranos depicted Italians and stuff like that. But that ain't my lane. I'm just saying to you, The Wire was phenomenal. I'm not throwing any shade on it whatsoever. It was absolutely fabulous. But The Sopranos was something new to me, whereas The Wire was something that I've seen before, unfortunately, over many personal experiences that I've witnessed in my life. Let's go to the next one right here, please. At Greg, well, what the hell you doing? Looking to give some honey your phone number or something? This is your Twitter handle? Greg1667-693-5420. You just basically asking some honey to give you a call, ain't that true? That's what you're asking. Because you ain't brave enough to just roll up on her and say, hello, how are you doing? I think that you're a very beautiful young lady. I would love to get to know you better. Would you mind if I give you my number? I really, really hope that you give me a call sometime. But if you don't, I just want you to know I think you're beautiful. Thank you. But you ain't brave enough to do that, so we got to go with this. And here's what we'll do. Do you think any NBA teams in the past 10 years could beat the Toon Squad from Space Jam? Yeah. The Splash Brothers with Kevin Durant. That's who. Because I don't give a damn what you find. You couldn't find anybody, including in Space Jam, that could shoot the ball like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant was lighting folks up. So that would be my answer to your question. I expected one about the honeys, though. Worried about you a little bit. We'll talk about that another time. Next up, do we have any more? I don't think we do. But you know what we have? We got videos. We call this my Get At Me segment right here. I'm going to lounge on my couch because, I've been standing and sitting, all of this other stuff. But I want to sit up there and relax on my couch and check this out. Okay, let me see the video right here, please.
What's going on, Stephen A. Smith? I have a question for you. What is your favorite Jordan silhouette of all time? I'll let you know right now. These 8s or something else. Let me know what you think, man.
Well, listen, I would go with those. I would go with these right here. See those sneakers I got on right here? These are some old Jordans. I love these. So I would go with this right here. But the Jumpman silhouette, I love that stuff. But I like the kicks I got on right now, so I would go with this right here. I'm kind of liking this couch. This is very, very comfortable. I could do some things on this couch. I could do some things. I just want to throw that out there. Get your mind out of the gutter. That's not where I was going, but hey, what's up?
What's up, Stephen A? A huge fan of the show. My name is Devin Antis. I'm from South Bend, Indiana. I'm also a huge WWE fan. So my question would be, if you had a WrestleMania opponent, you were main eventing WrestleMania, who would be your opponent?
My opponent? First of all, I'm too slim to even be thinking about getting into the ring. I'm not doing that. If I were to do that, it would be as a villainous manager. Think Bobby the Brain Heenan back in the day. Think Paul Heyman today. It would be somebody like along those lines. And if I had to pick somebody that I would fight against, you want me to tell you who I think it would be? Who I would want it to be? I would want to go into the ring against a young nature boy, Ric Flair. Whoa! That's who I would love to have gone into the ring against, waiting for his introduction where they play the music, dun, 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 with the robe. I would have liked that. That would have been cool. Ric Flair. Here's the last video right here. Give it to me.
Hey, Stephen A. Who was your favorite player to cover outside of Allen Iverson?
That's an interesting question. Allen Iverson is clearly number one because he was mercurial. He was always in the news for something. I came after Charles Barkley, so I can't use him. I would say to you, Kobe was very, very interesting. There is no doubt about that. D Wade is up there. There's no doubt about that. I got to think long and hard about this one. My favorite one to cover outside of Allen Iverson. I'm going to have to say Kobe. Because Kobe was a winner. Kobe was committed to winning. Kobe could give two shits about anything or anybody else before winning. And if you held him accountable, you had better be right. The most nightmarish calls I've ever received was from Kobe Bryant. When I saw him dialing my number, I was always worried. What the hell did I say wrong? Did I get it wrong? Did I do it wrong? Because he'd make me go on the air and correct myself if he thought I was wrong. So I have to say that. That's how I feel about it. Nobody comes before Allen Iverson. Nobody. But Kobe Bryant, that was very, very interesting. I have to say that. It's time to get to the calls. Before I get on out of here for the day, the weekend actually, 888-SAS-5303. That's 888-727-5303. Let's go to Kyle in Arizona. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Kyle? How are you?
I'm doing great, Stephen A. How are you?
Talk to me. What's up?
Outside of Michael Jordan, I'm curious, who in your mind would be the greatest Michael in sports history across the board?
Michael. Give me some options, man.
Michael Schumacher, Michael Phelps, Michael Irvin.
I'd have to go with Michael Phelps, his Olympic record. I mean, Michael Irvin's a three-time Super Bowl champion, and I get that part. But as great as he is, as great as the playmaker was, is the fact that the Dallas Cowboys wouldn't have won Super Bowls without him. It was Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman on his roster, along with a bevy of other guys. You could say Mike Tyson. That's definitely an option. A former undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, youngest heavyweight champion in history. We get all of that. But when you look at the number of Olympic gold medals that Michael Phelps captured, and then you see how Mike Tyson's career waned over the course of a decade, I'd have to say you even have to put Michael Phelps ahead of him. You understand? 23 gold medals.
I love that.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate the call.
Appreciate it.
Let's go to Fernando in Rhode Island. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Fernando? How are you?
Stephen A., I'm back here with you, talking to you again. First off, hope I can get you on Sports Time HQ as a guest star for my show at any point, hopefully. But my question to you is, Dak Prescott, is he the future for the Cowboys? Because he has not been able to bring them to the Super Bowl yet.
No. Why would you ask that question? He's been in the league over 8 years. He has won 2 playoff games. And he panics like hell in the postseason. You see him shivering? He was shook.
I do.
Oh, no. I mean, listen. Shannon Sharp said it best to me when we were on First Take on ESPN last week. When he was talking about him being the leader on the team and him trying to motivate his teammates, he would say that he would point to them and say, don't let it be you. Don't let it be you. In other words, make sure you ain't the one that messes up. You ain't the one that F's up. You do your job. You make sure that if there's a mistake that cost us something, somebody else made that mistake and not you. Okay? Dak Prescott can't do that to anybody because it's usually him. The interception, the pick six, not being able to stop the bleeding or the momentum from the opposition, that's Dak Prescott. So I'm going to tell you that's what it is.
Should they get a rookie quarterback?
No, I'm not. Listen. I'm not saying that because he's about a $59.4 million cap hit. Obviously, if you leave him where he is, you've got to do something, whether extend him or put some voidable years into the contract, whatever the case may be, you got to work it out. I'm not saying to lose the man because he's still better than most, but understand that Dak Prescott has given us every reason not to believe that he's going to get the job done when it counts. That's not who he has led us to believe. I sincerely hope this offseason, they say he has mental issues and stuff like that. I want to be very clear and very delicate in that. That's a very serious matter. He's obviously had some tragedy in his family. He lost his mom. His brother obviously took his own life. We heard about all of these things. I don't take that lightly. It's very, very serious. I'm not joking about that. But I do think that if people are going to allude to his mental makeup, okay, or how it's compromised in any way, I think he's one of those dudes that need to be spending the off season with a sports psychologist to get his mind right, to brace him for the big moments. because I think as times get tight, as the pressure mounts, I think it has a catastrophic effect on him. And I'm of the belief that it would be good for him to make sure that he has somebody in his camp that's guiding him mentally to make sure his mind is stable in terms of instead of fluctuating due to pressure. That's what I think Dak Prescott needs more than anything else. He can throw the football, he can run with the football, he can read through defenses, he can go through his progressions. He knows how to play the game of football on an elite level. He just doesn't do it when it counts most. That tells me that's about pressure, when palms get sweaty and asses get tight. And those who are great differ from ones who are good. That's what that tells me.
Appreciate you, Stephen A.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's go to Ross. You're the last caller, live from LA. What's up, Ross? How are you?
Hey, Stephen A. It's Ross from Los Angeles.
That's
I
what I
had a
just
quick
said.
question about the LeBron James situation that you
Go ahead.
probably know is developing. There's a lot of rumors swirling around in the NBA circles about him potentially leaving the Lakers in the future to join whatever team drafts his son. And Rich Paul recently tried to dispel and downplay those rumors. But I know that you have a lot of sources within the NBA. What are your thoughts on this situation? Do you believe he will be leaving the Lakers in the near future?
Well, first of all, you can't believe anything that Rich Paul wants to say about LeBron James unless it's what LeBron James wants him to say. That you can believe, that he's saying what LeBron James wants him to say. Rich Paul ain't telling you anything about LeBron James that LeBron James doesn't give him the okay to say. So get that out your way right now. Get that out your mind. Number two, LeBron James, a superstar, no doubt, Mount Rushmore basketball, four-time champion, four-time league MVP. Here's the flip side. You do get to a point where you have to look at your circumstances and ask yourself what you're playing for. And if LeBron wants another championship, I don't believe it's going to be with the Lakers. I happen to have heard he doesn't want to go anywhere but to New York if he departs from the Lakers. And I'm not saying he should ask for a trade. He should ask to leave the Lakers at this moment. But if you are going to leave, you should want to go with the New York Knicks. 11 picks, first-round picks over the next 7 years, 6 first-round picks in this year's draft and next year's draft combined. If you do Knicks, you have tradable assets. You have assets that you could give to the Los Angeles Lakers that they desperately need. They don't have draft capital. The Knicks have it. The Knicks are in desperate need of a superstar. The Lakers just won a championship a few years ago. Knicks haven't won one since 1973. If I'm the New York Knicks, I'd do everything that I can to make this move happen. Everything. And if I'm the Lakers, I listen, because how many teams are going to be able to give you that many draft picks? I definitely listen. That's it for the calls. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I got to get on out of here for the weekend, but before I do, I wanted to transition to a very, very serious matter. Before I get on out of here today, I wanted to take this moment to pay my respects and pay a tribute to the Black Eagle himself, Mr. Joe Madison, who lost his battle with prostate cancer at the age of 74 over the last few hours. I was a frequent guest on Joe Madison's show. I had met him on several occasions throughout the years. He is the of the NAACP's Detroit chapter. And he wasn't just a radio host. He wasn't just a Hall of Fame radio host. He was an activist, a conscientious observer, without question, unequivocally on behalf of the Black community and Black folks the world over. He traveled the world, and obviously to a lesser degree throughout this country, the United States of America, fighting on behalf of Black folks every chance he had. He was an inspiration. He was obviously an elite thinker. He was somebody who was incredibly accomplished, and he was beyond a conscientious observer. He was a motivator. He was an instigator for the right reasons, and he was somebody who loved all of us. And when we think about pioneers, and when we think about activists, and when we think about difference makers and game changers, please think about this man. He was on Sirius XM, Urban View Radio, channel 126, every weekday morning from 6 to 10 a.m. I was an avid listener of his show and, repeating myself, a frequent guest on many, many, many occasions. when it pertained to issues involving the black community, and there was something he felt I needed to know, he would text or email me and let me know just that. I love this man. I revere this man, not just respect him. And on behalf of myself and everybody associated with this show and everybody associated with me, I send my deepest condolences to the family and loved ones of Joe Madison. Gone, but never, ever forgotten. Joe Madison, gone at the age of 74. Miss you already, my brother. May God be with you.